habit can be bent to your will only when you enter the fifth dimension.
Bob Marriott, sober coach, hired sobriety. Welcome to the podcast, you beautiful, beautiful creature. Live from Miami, Florida. You better be in Miami, Florida with a tan like that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely in Miami, Florida.
All right. Well, it's nice to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
You got me on a day where the sun's down, so it was really easy. If it's 2:00 and it's sunny in Miami, I'd be like itching, like, oh my God, the cornerstone of my sobriety is my tan, so I need to be out there working on it.
Okay, is that what you is that the trade-off? Because is it true that like you don't really cure your addiction, you just replace it with something that just doesn't destroy your life as well or as bad?
Okay, there's much more. Listen, I would tell anyone that's just coming into recovery, because I get all these new guys that are coming in, and especially we're in some really auspicious times right now with the pandemic, and there's a big mental health component, even for the most solid people that don't have any addiction issues. There's been 8 months of uncertainty, and oh yeah, I'm rolling with the punches, it's easy. It's not easy. There's a underlying angst to people. There's misinformation, and we're talking in terms of they say, and I was like, who's they? Some say this, some say that. So that's all leading to people's anxiety to be more elevated. And then you factor in my world, is that the addiction piece is off the chart. I've never seen it more busy than where it is now. And again, that has a lot to do where families are being kept together. We can't, we have to keep our own little version of a bubble going on. And as we go back into the second wave right now, here we're going to clamp down again. Sales in alcohol in Canada are up 24% across the board in the last 8 months. So a year ago, we're 24% higher. Well, that's kind of interesting. What does that tell you? Well, we're self-medicating a lot. All the pot dispensaries, everything that's going on, they're jammed. And the government knew damn well. The first week of March, when this the second week of March when this started to get real, and I'm going to use the Ontario figures because on the national news, they had the health minister from Ontario fielding questions, and they said, are you going to shut the LCBOs? You're going to start selling liquor? And she flat out said 20% of our population is alcohol dependent. Well, that's a pretty damning indictment. That means you have a pretty serious alcohol problem on your hands. But stopping selling it at this point in time would be a detriment. It would guarantee the hospitals would burst, because alcohol is the only drug that will lead you to a hospital. If you're detoxing from a serious alcohol problem, it can kill you. No other drug can do that to you. People are like, oh, I'm coming off of cocaine. Then it's pretty banal, but detox from cocaine or crack or, heroin and any type of opiate is a very physical sickness, but it will not kill you. It'll make you very uncomfortable, but it will not kill you. So all this to get back to your question on whether or not you transfer your addiction. You come into your recovery. I remember thinking, oh, my life would be different if, and this is, I don't know anything about why I've been self-medicating for 25 years. I was 39 years old when this revelation came on to me, but I'd been drinking and using since I was 14. So I remember thinking, well, all I have to do is stop drinking and using. Fact. That's right. The price of admission to be in recovery is an abstinence-based life, meaning abstinence means no mind-altering substances. But what they don't tell you and what you learn afterwards is that addiction works on a very different sphere, all right? Because we are gaming addicts, we are sex addicts, porn addicts, sex and porn, two different things, same lead. Shopping, and men's primitive brain, we're all guilty of this. Like men, let's say I'm looking for a car and I'm going to start searching it on the internet and taking different angles and looking and reading. That's our primitive brain hunting. That's my reptilian brain looking to hunt and to gather and to execute a deal and to commit, to do it. There are some people that spend a lot of time posturing before they execute. Some guys just point and shoot. They just do it, maybe because they have the economic means, but it's the reptilian brain in you that's doing that. So if you think you can outthink that, you can. And for when the transferring happened, in my case, I weighed 128 pounds when I went into rehab. I'd been on a steady diet of cocaine and heroin and wasn't eating very well. Shocker. And 1 year later, so that's January of 2004. 1 year later, January of 2005. Okay, so now I'm 208 pounds. I've gained 80 pounds. Did I transfer to food? Yes, definitely. I used to like eating milkshakes like 3 times a day. I didn't care what was in it, never looked at calories or anything, but I definitely saw an uptake in how I was using food to soothe me. And again, that's just your body, or we soothe each other. Gambling addicts, and when we talk about process addiction, gambling, sex, shopping, food, all of these things, even relationships, your brain is fed in our brain, our housing of our head here. Norepinephrine is a naturally existing chemical that's made in here. I can't buy it, norepinephrine. So, when oh God, I'm looking for my fix. And most people will tell you that it's the buildup, the ritual of getting there, that you don't really care. A gambler doesn't care if he wins or loses. It's the high he's getting while chasing it.
It's the roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
It's
that
journey.
With food or whatever.
And so your hunger, your innate hunger, this huge desire to consume, or it's because maybe you're just a beast. Maybe you have this thing in you. You can't turn it off, right? There's no amount of therapy that's going to allow you to subside the tremendous hunger you have within you for whatever it is. You have funneled, from my bro science perspective, you have funneled your hunger towards a different prey, a different kill, a different high, but one that is beneficial to others and yourself, versus one that is destroying you and everything on your path, right?
Good question, but there's a two-sided thing to that. I've never had an addict that's coming into recovery that doesn't have low self-esteem and they're self-centered. That's your starting point. So that's like, even though you're well-intentioned, you're a friend, you're friends with someone that's struggling. When you try and talk to this person about their struggle, they'll dismiss it, they'll minimize it, they'll deflect it. All right. But they don't want to confront it. And they certainly don't want you confronting them. So that often leads to what we call conflicted and enmeshed. We get in this situation where this dance is no longer happening. And it leads to the addict leading to isolation. Most addicts in the later phases of all addicts in the later phases of their addiction are isolating. They don't want people to know how they're really living. So they're spending a lot of time by themselves and their addiction. So for me, did I channel it into something else? I would tend to believe it was everything I could do in the first 2 years was not to pick up and not to drink. That was the hardest mission I had. But moving through that, at some point you realize, hey, I've realized now that my alcohol and my addiction were complete symptoms to the greater problem, which was me. And my behaviors and coping mechanisms led me to want to self-medicate to the point where I was not holding the proper job. I was not able to. Any of my interpersonal relationships are greatly flawed. And I lived on fumes of, normalcy. And I had a lot of loving family that was trying to help me. And of course, I didn't want anything to do with anyone telling me anything that remotely sounded or looked like the truth. They had to be amputated from my life. And again, I kept this narrative. And look, people are into this. I have friends of mine that are not in recovery that I knew from a young age, and they're still driving this one narrative point that this is how they are. This will never change. And it's sort of sad as I'm in my mid 50s now. And I'm watching some of my friends sort of regress into, like highly jaded, life didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. Really interesting to watch people that don't have a recovery to stand on. And
so do you
I think that recovery's that.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think that it's almost a gift that I call it the hunger, okay? That your hunger was so big, let's say, that it had to be addressed, where you eventually hit a wall. It was either death or recovery, right? Yeah. But I would say the vast majority of the population have the same symptoms and need for coping mechanisms, but their hunger isn't so big, so they never hit a wall that hard. And so their entire life is coping mechanisms, whether it's food, whether it's a little bit of alcohol, whether it's a little bit of weed, whether it's toxic relationships, shitty job, just consistent throughout, but never has too many peaks or valleys. And so there's no real stimulus for a massive change like you.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, my change was rock bottom. I had run out of, my mother, rest her soul, said, you'd run out of exits. There's nothing left.
But there's beauty in that, right? That was your saving grace.
As soon as I had less choices other than one way out of here, like you're at the bottom. You're not getting the next stop is death. And when you leave that place, and it's with little fanfare, like I like to say, there was a small spark of hope. My family had written me off. I had, other than my mom, who said, like, listen, piss me off. You disappoint me this time, and I don't know where you're going to end up because your family has officially shut you down. My family had finally got help, brought in an interventionist to tell him there's no narrative from this kid's mouth. The sickest person in the equation no longer dictates any of what's going on. That's the first thing. Like families realize, oh, Junior's got a problem or my boy's got a problem. Well, you all have a problem if the addiction will permeate into everyone else's life. But for me, like you say, the hunger, it was, I knew I would sit there going, I grew up with pretty well every advantage in the world. And while you're in this recovery zone, you meet people that have some seriously bad luck and bad shit happen to them. And you're watching them thrive and take way, way lesser resources than you had and thrive with them. And you start looking, I start thinking, hey, this guy can do this. What am I waiting for? Why is the offering I'm giving the world, this is the best I can do, And I was like thinking, man, that is some serious mediocrity I'm offering myself. And another part is, I don't think I've failed more than I have in my recovery. I've maintained my abstinence and my sobriety since January 2nd, 2004. I haven't had a drink or a drug since. But I have failed in building myself to the person I am today many times. But instead of letting a failure define me, I'm like, have I learned from this? Okay, so let's look at the whole mindset changed. And I started looking at a scalable way to come out of where I was at to this darkness, if you will, and slowly started chipping away at it. I did not know I'd become an interventionist when I got sober. I did not know I'd be, a recovery coach, let alone a good one, and it was interesting. And, I got married in my recovery. I got divorced in my recovery. My ex-wife was instrumental in telling me, like, what are you trying to do anything other than this? She saw it in me before I did. And people ask me, oh, my relationship's really good with her. And I'm like, you don't understand. I don't think I would have motivated myself to this point. She kind of built it and said, here, you kicked me out of the nest and said, like, we're not going any further than this, but you can do this. And I poured myself into what I call a craft and what I call, the betterment of learning how to do my job. And I've become, I've become very good at it. I've become extremely good at it. People call me like, oh, 2 other interventionists have failed. And, the therapists, because my business is built on end users. It's built on therapists and doctors and lawyers. And they'll say, oh, you failed. A couple of people failed. Call Bob Marion. Bob Marion's going to come in. Yeah, I have the innate belief that every case is winnable and every case is the person's going to go into treatment. But again, you ask me where the hunger comes from, and I could say, I didn't believe in myself enough to start this. And as I started to, you start any new business or new venture, you're going to fail. And you're going to either learn from the failures or you're going to say, oh, fuck it. I can't do this anymore. I can't, or you become, I've used this word with you before, audacious. Like, it's like, maybe people that are looking from the outside looking in go, oh, what a maroon. How's this guy from Montreal going to become anything with himself or do this? And that's human nature. Like, it's almost like, well, he made an attempt, it failed, he went home, but he took his ball and he went home, or you keep working. And that's what I did. I just kept working at it.
That's really the only way. It's the only way to do it. And that limiting belief, that self-esteem thing, I think anyone who has that hunger is innately going against the fitting into the tribe, right? That's subconsciously ingrained in us. Because if you're an artist or you have the hunger, whatever it may be, you have this thing that makes you by nature different than those around you. So you're going to be taking in those vibrations, those negative beliefs of the people around you who are doing their thing and belong where they belong. But if you're, the flower around all the cactus, you're going to start wanting to be a cactus or thinking that you're a flower and you're not like the other cacti. It's cacti, right? And that's the pro and con of having this magic ability, right? That's why artists are oftentimes, doomed, because they have this tremendous talent, but they sink it into the ground, and it usually a lot of times ends very poorly. And it's that
self-loathing and self-doubt will rule the day.
Yeah, because if you're not aware of your mind and not aware of the subconscious programming that's a million years old, and you just feel like this is it, and you're not able to productively create a positive narrative, like, I failed, but next time I'm going to do it like that, and I'll get to it faster, and I'll do it, and I'll keep moving and moving. Because at the end of the day, what got you to where you are is consistency is the name of the game. You can't try one thing, be scared shitless, fail, and then stop. Like, where are you going to go back to? The job?
I tend to believe a lot of people take their one shot and they realize, oh, I fell flat on my face. How dare, who was I thinking? And then there's the negative self-talk. Like, who did I think I was? How did I think this could be end differently? And I sort of took that as like, wait a minute, I'm a student of the game. I have to realize that, and I have a unique skill set. I went to multiple universities, got thrown out of every one of them. I was never good in school. But if I look at the expertise I have, my experience became my expertise. Man, do I know how to be a proper addict. I mean, I've been there, done that.
You always gave 1,000%.
Yeah.
Bob Marriott.
Like 7 days a week. You've heard this expression from my nephews. It's go time all the time with Bob. And that's the way I worked.
But that's the way you still work.
Yeah.
Because whenever I hang with you, you're on 9 different phone calls at the same time. Yeah. It's life or death every time. You're talking to Russia. You're talking to London. You're talking to Toronto.
Yeah.
That's the world of chaos that you live in, but you're bringing good.
Yeah. And I mean, I bring it good. I tell people the way it is. I tell people no all the time. Like, I have boundaries. Like, oh, my unicorn's different. You can't work that way. Well, I work this way, and there's nothing. You're on the phone with me. It's your dime, but it's going to be my dance, and I'm going to make it work this way. And I win them over. I have some people that say, well, we can't work that way. And I'm like, okay, best of luck to you. I'm sure you'll find someone that can do it. And then maybe a month or two later, all the employees that work with me always go, man, you play the long game and it pays. And I'm like, it pays because I didn't acquiesce to someone that wanted their unicorn or their snowflake to be treated different than everyone else. You need them to come in and to learn how this works. And I work a comprehensive, like a convergent type of recovery plan where the family immediately is involved. We're going to take your loved one over to treatment, and we're going to start working with the family. So the backstory, because people go to rehab, and 99% of people do exceptionally well in the controlled environment of a detox or of a acute care facility. It's when they come home that the shit hits the fan. And of course not. None of the other players in his world, the actors are all acting the same way. They haven't been taught what to look at, what to look for. They're walking on eggshells, all to the detriment of the person of concern that needs consistency, accountability, all the things that he's going to need to do to succeed in life. I look at it, my license was up in September, Mary AM in Quebec, and like that was paid in July. It's just the differences of being in a recovered world where I'm ahead of things, and I've gotten ahead of things in my life, and that makes my life a lot easier. I was always reacting to, oh, fuck, the bailiff's after me. Oh, fuck this thing and that thing. Wait a minute. It was my responsibility. I was just ignoring them.
You just weren't there.
I was so focused on my addiction. I didn't look at anything else.
Yeah, you were chasing someone else or something else. But a very important point, because the only way that I've seen in myself, classic Diet Coke. Love that.
Yes.
And so to me, it's shocking how little weight is put on the people who surround you, right? Like you said early on, a few minutes ago, that your relationship, your marriage, she was pro Bob. She was pumping your tires. She was telling you what you can do. You were in an environment where someone was telling you the things.
Nurtured it.
Yeah, right. She was building you up to do what you needed to do. My experience personally is that if you don't address who is around you in the room, let's say in your house, in your home, your friends, we are, even on a microbiological level, the average of the 5 people that we spend time with.
Right.
And the idea of the snowflake, or the unicorn, like, oh no, don't talk to them like this, or don't talk. That is what created this. Right. And I'm sure every single time, I could be wrong, every time you go in and you have to deal with a case, everyone around that person is a fucking problem.
Yeah. Like their unhealthy relationship. Like, I want to tell every family member, you want to read a book called Codependent No More and see that you're either codependent, and you're in these relationships, and our relationships with our loved ones are so flawed to the detriment of the person. We enable people so much that we disable them. And for the case of the person of concern that is struggling with an addiction, and let's say I have a 27-year-old who lives in his basement, but his dad's paying his phone bill. He has no vested interest in keeping his job, or he shows up when he wants. He doesn't realize that, what time he's supposed to be there at, he doesn't have to worry about it because he thinks, oh, my parents are going to take care of it. And that's what they think. And then I tell parents, like, you're disabling your person. All you want them to be is an active member of society. How can they be if at 27 he's still getting his phone bill paid by you?
And it's a very two-dimensional approach where I guess the parents want them to look a certain way, act a certain way, but there's no question or no caring about what's really going on inside or what you're doing to that subconscious.
Angry. The person of concern that's struggling with their addiction's angry at the way they've played out. And they may have siblings that have succeeded with less or with the same amount, and they are greatly off the mark. And they start living in this low self-esteem, and they're self-centered, and I'm no good, and fuck, I'm not like them, and I should be entitled to have what they have, and without working for it. And it's really interesting to see how families, once they're properly coached to how I'm behaving and what's my part in this, they start realizing, man, I have been detrimental to it. Even it was out of love and concern, it was too easy. We hadn't taught any resilience to the person. If there's no resilience, if like, oh, you need a new car? Yeah, go pick out a car. There's 3 models you can have. Pick which one of those. I'm going to pay for it. That's great.
I can totally understand because I grew up around a lot of people like that. Mm-hmm. And I know that on a subconscious level, when I was 15 and I had to be at work, on Saturday morning,
right?
Did I always show up at 7:30 like I was supposed to? Would I stroll in at like 7:59, 15 minutes late with my dad there staring me at the face saying, "What the fuck?" Mm-hmm. I guess I knew on a subconscious level that, and not consciously, on a subconscious level that like it didn't really matter. Like it was going to be what it was going to be. But I think at the same time, the fact that I had to be at work at 15 years old, it gave me something that I had to earn, right? The first guitar I ever wanted, my dad told me, how much is it? I said $3,000. And I wasn't the kind of kid who really asked for anything.
Right.
And we said, what kind of guitar do you want? I said, gold top Gibson Les Paul. Mm-hmm. And he said, all right, how much is it? And it was $3,000. And he said, all right, you can have it. And I said, really? He said, yeah, all you have to do is go work. And when you earn that much,
yeah.
I'll buy it for you. And that's what got me going at an early age. And I guess I'm at the time, I wasn't very thrilled about it, cleaning bearings on the weekend and clipping wires. But I have a lot of gratitude that I think it gave me a lot of, strength, or it gave me the ability to have some kind of responsibility at an early age. Whereas a lot
in your case, again, you were thrust into a lot of responsibility. I mean, the trauma of losing your dad at a young age, and then you could have gone one way or the other, and you chose the right way. You said, let me get into this, let me learn the business, and then let me make some smart decisions about how to do that. A lot of people could have easily said that trauma was enough to make, I can't possibly live up to this, and I'm just going to fail. You didn't. You took the baton, you ran with it. You did the right thing.
Well, I'd
say 90% of people would have went into their addiction and said, I'll piss through all the money. Who cares? Fuck it. We can't live up to that. You didn't. I respect the hell out of that for you. And you did what needed to be done.
I appreciate that, but I don't even see it like that. I just saw it as, okay, it's time to take over. It's time to put away the music, time to grow up and be a big boy, my brother and I. And there was no question of, I can't live up to what my dad did. The entire thesis of what we wanted to do was to triple what he did as fast as fucking possible. He did this many trips, we're going to do that many trips. He did this much sales, we're going to do that much sales. But I can't say that this was, look at me, I made such a wise decision. I made tons of mistakes that almost bankrupted us, and done in good faith. Like I was investing in rebuilding the business in terms of supply chain and warehousing and the systems and all that shit, because I didn't know anything about cash flow. I didn't know anything about, honestly, I didn't know anything other than selling and going out for drinks with customers. But I figured, hey, the money coming in, I could spend $500,000 on my inventory system, because once that's settled, it's gonna increase our
money for me.
It's gonna increase our cash flow and profitability. But if that's gonna bankrupt you getting there, then you can't do that. But so it was paved with good intentions, but there were a lot of important things we learned along the way that made me, first of all, respect even more what my dad did and understood his frame of mind of why he kept things the way he did, because there's a lot of reasons, and it makes a lot more sense once you're in his shoes and you try to fucking change things around too much. But the first 2 years we were drunk as fuck. We were on the road, like we were on the road 8 months a year for the first 2 years, visiting suppliers and customers from like China to Niles, Ohio, you know? And at a certain point, we just stopped because our bodies were giving out. I was 25. No, I guess I was 28, and I looked like I was 58. I looked fucked. I was in the worst shape of my life. I felt horrible. I would come home on Friday nights and go to the bar and get drunk Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday go to work, go for lunch, have more scotch, then go on a trip. And then that was 2 years of my life. And I was just like, whoa, got to get out before.
Rinse, wash, repeat. Rinse, wash, repeat. That's
exactly. But all that to say is that when we decided to change our lifestyles, my brother actually started first. He needed to he was over 200 pounds, and he's not a very tall guy. And he was, let's say, living the dream, you know, on the outside, but really he hit his rock bottom, kind of, I guess. Enough for him to say, I'm not doing this anymore. He's like, what do I love in life? I like waking up on Saturday morning and going for a drive. And if I can't do that because I'm hungover, then I'm not interested in being hungover.
Right.
And then a few months later, I kind of went the same route, and it was cold turkey. And it was after a discussion with Nick Rose, your nephew. Because we were talking about we were talking about leadership and growth and leading by example. And you have to represent what you're trying to do. I couldn't be trying to change a business if I didn't represent the change that I wanted to be. So if I was drunk or hungover and very short with people and not following through and looking the part but not being the part, that disgusted me. So I said, well, I got to hit the gym now 7 days a week. I got to learn about nutrition. I can't be drinking.
Balance.
I can't do
right
that shit.
The other way.
Right the other way. And I'm much more balanced now, about 5 years later. You know, I do have a drink here and there. I do have an edible here and there. But I am aware of how close it is, how the beast can be awoken. Like, I don't say that the beast is dead. I say he's living in Vermont and he's in a cage. But it's going to take a lot to get me to Vermont, but less than you think.
Right. I now tell you, he's in that cage doing push-ups and sit-ups, ready to reinvade your body with more strength and vigor than he ever had before.
Absolutely. And to be honest, every time I do overindulge, it humbles me and makes me shake in my boots.
Yeah, as you get older, you're a medicine ball. Like, you don't bounce anymore. It's
no,
like,
and it reminds me, it's like, that is not that. Like, pick your poison, but don't pick the booze one, because that's the one that leads to very, very fucking ugly places. Yeah,
it's amazing to me when I'm explaining to people, like in Canada, let's say 40 people a day die of addiction in Canada. 85% of those 40 people die of alcohol or related deaths to alcoholism. So then there's another 13%. We're going to bring us to 98%. But those drugs are purveyed by pharmacies, and the doctors are ostensibly the drug dealers. They're being abused, or they're being over medicated people. And we've anesthetized the whole society. And 2% of the illegal drugs are the fentanyl and the cocaine and stuff that actually kill people. Marijuana, never one of my food groups. It's funny. I never liked pot, didn't want to go near it. When I was asked, what do you think legalization is going to do? And I said, nothing. It will put money into the government's pockets, which is great. And let's get rid of the middleman. But what it also did was it showed, the police have never rolled up on a domestic dispute where both parties were stoned. That's never happened. But there's a lot of disinformation. So, marijuana on the developing brain. They don't talk about alcohol in the developing brain. They don't talk about alcohol being a solvent and you're putting that into your body at 14 years of age and you're really hurting your brain. But they talk about marijuana like it's absolutely poison. Again, I live 100% abstinent life, never liked pot, but it's nowhere near as invasive as alcohol is. Alcohol is a really bad drug, and it's absolutely abused day in, day out with impunity because, well, it's legal, and that's what they think. I love when I speak in terms like that.
No, but that's okay. But it's really bullshit, because that's really the catalyst to really destroy everything you've built.
Yeah.
It can creep in, and it's the fire starter. It really is. And that's why like I said, I enjoy, a glass of wine here and there, but for the most part, that's as far as I go. And because I know that the hangover, the behavior that I engage in, like, it's like it ignites my reptilian brain. So throughout the hangover, I'm messaging people I shouldn't be messaging. I'm watching way too much fucking porn. You know, I'm doing all this.
But you can see the cause.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You can see the effect it has
Absolutely.
on it. But most people never think it out that far down the road.
That's all I think about, man. That's all I think about.
They minimalize the hangover, and let's move on. Rinse, wash, repeat. And
I get so fucking depressed. And not only that, then I'll order the donuts. And the donuts, it's very funny. Like, I'll have a dozen at a time, and then I'll order a bunch of sandwiches and shit.
I had a dozen Krispy Kreme last week. I did.
Fucking right. But
and it took 24 hours to eat them all. But
okay, very good. Usually it takes me 24 minutes. But
okay.
But it's very funny, because I don't know if it's the sugar in both alcohol and the donuts, but I have very similar effects to the ignition of my reptilian brain. It's almost like the sugar creates some kind of inflammation or imbalance in my microbiome or whatever it is. And if I had too many donuts, I engage the same way the next day as I did if I drank too much. And I'm in the same kind of fucking loser state that I am. And all these things. Look, you and I live in a we've created a work environment for ourselves where it depends on us, and it depends on us believing in ourselves, right? Because it's a fickle thing. When you don't work for someone and you have to create what you're doing, you have to believe 100% of the time that what you're doing makes total fucking sense.
Yeah.
And
I have people that depend on me as the head of the beast. We have a whole bunch of services that are being articulated. Like, I'm a sober coach, but how many of the coaching jobs that are happening right now in my business are run by me? They're not. They're run by very able people. I manage all these cases, and I have a case manager, and they all report to me, and I can speak to the client themselves and say what we're doing, what our objectives are, and how we're moving forward. There's a clinical backdrop to all my cases now. I have a clinical director that manages every case that comes over our desk, so we're able to get really good results. But like you say, if I'm not the head of the beast, if I'm not on my game, a lot of people are responsible for their homes, their mortgages, and stuff like that. And I have to make sure I'm doing my part and doing it well.
Absolutely. And but the good part of that is that you've built your machine, right? And you have many commanders within this army. And that's I
had to, because at one point I was taking on so much for myself, my mental status. And like, I used to think, you do an intervention and people see it on TV. Oh, it looks pretty banal. You're in everyone's garbage day in, day out.
Yeah, and that's garbage
in
vibes.
a case where I do 45 to 55 a year, you can't help but give a bit of your soul to every one of these cases that's trying to help. And at one point I was like, I always think of in Jerry Maguire when he's showing him, he's in airports, it's late at night, it's not a fun time to be. And I'm with myself and I'm listening to, to sad music saying, this is the certain hell I'm living, 150 flights a year. I'm up, I'm down, I'm barely home. I just keep working. And that's the work I put in to get where I'm at. 2 years ago, bought a place in Miami. This is where I'd like to be. This is where I got sober. And I started saying, I'm going to make better decisions and trust my generals and trust the people that I've trained and let them work. And they do. And it's worked out fine. I'm not the center of the universe. For a bit of time, I'm like thinking I'm the only person who can run all this. And then, no, I can manage it a lot better. And I work a lot more efficiently when I trust the people around me.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a huge step for a recovering addict, or I think for anyone in general, is to have trust in others and not be obsessed with doing everything yourself or being a control freak, right?
Right.
So that's a huge, psychological upgrade that I think
you could do a show just by speaking to like the 6 core employees I have, and they'd all say, Bob tells us one thing, and they'll all tell you they feel secure in their decisions, but they ask themselves, is this rooted in common sense? Because that's what I ask them all. Common sense will rule the day, always. If you're complicating something that should be pretty easy, think of the least complicated answer, because that's going to be the right way to go.
And would you say that you've developed this skill set from from your wild experiences of wheeling and dealing? Like your negotiating tactics, I'm pretty sure you didn't develop them watching an online class. This was in the streets. This was making deals. This was...
Well, I think that I did an intervention a few weeks ago in Montreal, and it was very lurid. There was a young girl involved who had like a lot of personality issues and stuff like that. And then we got into the room and we had done the backstory with the family, but the shit comes out live. And it was a woman case. So I had a second chair that was a woman working with me who works with me, Lisa Simone, great girl, very well trained. Again, I've trained her. Most of her training's been with me, but she said afterwards, like it was an emotionally heavy case. A lot of shit came out. And she said, I'm so happy that I was sitting second chair and not first chair. And I said, why? She goes, because you handle that with ease. And she goes, like, it was lurid. And she goes, you air traffic controlled emotions. That's what she said. You go, wait a minute. Let's let the person of concern talk. And you're managing all these other personalities in the room. They're all wanting to get their pound of flesh in. And I said, no, we have one objective here and try and do that. But it's learned behavior. I've learned so much. Like just a few things like, okay, the guy's been smoking meth for 3 days and he has a loaded gun. I don't think I'm really going to do that case first thing in the morning. I'm going to let him peter out, make sure he's no longer on a go when we go and have this conversation with him. You learn that thing. And the dangers in our business, in a business that's super unregulated, my business. I'm a trainer for Earl Hightower and Associates. I've got a master's class, if you will, in this. After years of working in the craft, working at my craft, and as I said, founded in fundamental, smart safety first, and we don't do anything dumb, but. There's a lot of people thinking, the easy money of the intervention. And like, man, you can go in there and someone can die in a hurry. You can make some bad mistakes and you have spoiled this opportunity, this event from ever happening again because you've lied and the chicanery that you've used does not work. I'm the straight same person. And again, you have these emotions like you come in and people are all yelling and screaming. I've never raised my voice in an intervention. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I can understand you're upset. You feel you're ambushed. These people love you. We're going to sit down. You're disarming someone that's screaming at you. You just watch the air come out of the balloon. But if I came in and got onto my high horse and said, you should vote, and you're bringing the volume up. You can't bring it down. If you start low and you stay low, it's gonna go smoothly. If you start getting into the same type of vibe and mentality, and I tell people about you can actually feel the room breathing, the emotions and stuff. I said, if you shake that up, you have no control of the room. And it's second nature to me. And people afterwards go, holy fuck, how do you do that? I did an intervention with Dave McMillan, the Joe Beef guy. He said afterwards, I drove home, we did it. It was a few hours. And he looked at me and he said, how the fuck do you do this? Over and over again. So I got to go home, take a warm blanket, lie on the couch and rock myself to sleep while I cry. I said, what do you mean? He goes, like, it's crazy. And I go, it was a pretty simple case today. He said, I have no idea how you can do this.
Well, dude, this is that hunger. You have a gift. You have this ability to operate like a Navy SEAL.
Right.
During extremely stressful situations. And I feel like that's when you're at your most present, your most peaceful. It's like that's
I'm dead calm.
Yeah, it's like that's what you were. It's like the calm energy of the day to day. I bet you fucks you up more than the crazy energy of an intervention.
Yeah. The faster the world is turning for me is when I talk about my pace and my cadence. I'm going to run that room. No one's going to dictate the pace or cadence. It's going to be me. So no matter what's crazy in there, and the energy's nuts. I can't explain it to anyone until you're in it. It's like, holy shit. It's like a shake and you can feel it. And you try and keep it light, move the ball and take it nice and easy. And I explain to people, like, I don't give a shit what comes out of the person of concern's mouth, how lurid, how much of a fight they want. You're going to be pushing your red button and you want to jump into this. You do not react on this day. I'm here to make sure nobody reacts. We're going to hear them and we're going to move. That's it. And it's amazing how fast you can do it. But I think it's, I only think of it afterwards and I never think it's that bad. But people tell me, oh my God, it's horrific. How do you do this again and again?
It's sorry. Fucked up. Dude, you're like in a parallel universe, you could have been a surgeon or a jet fighter pilot. Because like that's the
or a cult leader
or a cult leader. Either maybe you are, but that's the genetic lottery that you have. And I think having what you have, having what any, let's say, great talent has, I think the first 30, 40 years of life are figuring out what to even fucking do with it and to even recognize that you have it.
I was 39 years old when I got sober. I was 45 when I decided that this is what I wanted to do. And I realized that I was built for it. So 45 years old, everything else before was an attempt to do something. Oh, I can make money doing this or doing that. And yeah, you're right. But when you find the purpose, the calling calls you, you find it. It was like I knew it, but it was like, I've got to tell you, early on, I had my doubts. I was like, just this guy, I don't have an education from Montreal, really. And then it started to snowball. And I mean, once I had Rob Ford, every sobriety coach on the planet wants a bite of that. I kick at that can. They want a bite of that apple. And they went through a long, exhaustive list. There's no doubt they tried so many people. And he ended up taking me because I think that I didn't talk like any of the rest. I didn't hold his hand and tell him things are going to be okay. I told him, like, if you're not prepared to work at this, like, dude, you're going to fall flat on your face. And if you think people are laughing at you now you've gone into treatment and you're coming out saying, oh, praise Jesus, hallelujah, I'm cured. I said, the only way you're going to be able to beat this is to have changed behavior. And they're going to take shots at you people, and they're going to say nasty things to you, and you're going to be ready for it. And he bought in. But it was...
How hard was it? Because he had a Chris Farley energy to him.
Yeah. Oh, he was kind. There was such kindness in him. And like, he was like a big, very bright, cared about people. He really did. And, here I am, a very liberal, very open, and he's like this hardcore conservative, but we got along well. But I was amazed at how everyone was a vote. It didn't matter if they lived in the ivory tower, they lived in a shack, they were a vote, and he treated people that way. I think he really liked being the mayor of Toronto, and he really enjoyed that. But he was a good guy who deserved a better outcome. Nobody deserves to die of this horrific cancer at 46 years of age with a young family. Nobody deserved that. And it was interesting because he said, here I am, a hardcore addict, and nobody's giving me any respect. As soon as I got cancer, I got respect. He said, well, really, the addiction was killing me faster than the cancer was, because it was a bad situation. But as soon as he changed it, everything worked out. It's really interesting.
Do you think that kindness is a common denominator, or with addicts? Because you mentioned that he's kind, and I know a few people who are. Are they kind, or do they want to be loved? What's the difference?
I think that, there could be a people-pleasing thing that maybe that makes them that way, or a lot of times they rather take the shirt off their back to face their own issues and help someone that they deem needs it more than them. It gives them sort of an idea. I was here helping, but you can't, they say you can't transmit something you haven't got, or you can't help someone until you've helped yourself. So there's two schools of thought. A lot of addicts live in they have a higher calling, helping someone that's this much sicker than them into an easier frame of life. So you have to sort of understand that. I know when I came into recovery, I had the same sponsors when I came in. Like, I do a fellowship and a program. It's also a program I'm still a member of. But I don't do business in that meeting. I don't do anything like that. But that is for my own personal recovery. And my sponsor didn't cut me any slack. I remember telling him, I've been sober for 6 months now. And he stopped his car. He said, you've never drawn a sober breath in your life. You're 6 months of abstinence. Don't pat yourself on the back. You've earned nothing. He said, you have a lifetime of bad behavior. You think it's over in 6 months. And he was right, because it wasn't. The best apology is change behavior. It's pretty simple.
So would you say, because change behavior is a very interesting way of hearing, because I don't hear this stuff, right? Because for me, it's environment is everything. Because when you talk about people come out of rehab and then they go back to the exact place that created them, how do they stand a chance? Like, I know who I have to surround myself with. I know that if I'm going into certain environments, inevitably, I guess I have a strong head, but even on a subconscious vibrational level, if you're in a stressful job for too long, one that doesn't serve you, or you're with certain kind of people, or you're a lot of negativity around you, you're going to break. So how do you fucking avoid that? If
you're still hanging out with Hee-Haw and the fuck around gang after you get out of rehab and expect to be okay, I ached in the places I used to play. Leonard Cohen used those lines, and he was right, because the bars I used to hang out with and some of the friends of mine I used to hang out with that were bad for me, I had to recuse myself from being anywhere near them, especially at night. And they all respected me. Nobody ever gave me a hard time. Oh, you're sober now. Nobody. They respected the fact that I needed to change because it wasn't working for me. And anyone that says something to you that you're in recovery and somehow you're a lesser person or whatever, I consider the source. Like, what are they saying to you? But I had to cut myself off from bad situations. And I like live music, and I'd like to go to live comedy, and I'd go to these shows, and I would feel like in my first 2 years, I was like, I'm not comfortable in here. I have to leave. Comfort was like, I don't feel good. I don't feel like I can laugh here. There's a weight on me. And I'm so scared to relapse as I don't want to restart what I just did. And I got to leave. Now it's fine. I can go anywhere. And I've buried more than a few friends, like a half a dozen people I've known on my way up to this place that didn't change. And they were good people that never got the help I got or the opportunity I got to get better. And it wasn't my job to come out and say, I can save you and save you and save you. Anyone asks me for help, I'm going to help. No, just anyone knows me. I will help anyone that asks me. And there's not a charge. Like, I'm going to do my best to help you.
It's a necessary thing. If you want to be a new person, or you want to be the true person that you are inside, there have to be bodies on the floor. You have to get rid of people, and it's not because they're bad. It's not because of this or that. You've taken it upon yourself to look inward, to do the work, to actively try to change your world. And if they're not doing that, they're in direct opposition, even if they have a friendly face and a nice smile. And something you said that really hit is because nighttime. It's almost like you can hang out with these people, let's say, during the day.
9 to 5.
9 to 5, like a job, go for a walk, do this, do that. Yep. But after 5 p.m., that's when they turn into like the werewolf. It's like when the moon comes out. And
they only come out at night.
Exactly. And so I think when you think of Jekyll and Hyde, or you think about the werewolves, all these metaphors are really just talking about man's problem, or man's constant fight with addiction and inner demons.
If you want to tell me what good happens between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. in a bar, I will argue that nothing good happens.
On my couch, nothing happens from 8 p.m. to midnight or 3 a.m. that is good. I had to get a treadmill. I'm hanging out with a lady. That is deleting all opportunities of me being shameful. You know what I mean? So nothing really good happens there. But I like that you said that, because it's obviously a common denominator. Because I think about things a lot. I think about it from all angles. I'm a thinking kind of guy. That's what I do. But to hear you say it in practice is a great thing.
Again, and like when people say to me, people that knew me before, and some of them, it's interesting. I was at one of my groups, and the guy stood up and said, like, points to me and says, I knew Mario long before he ever got to this version. And if he could do it, let me tell you, I'm all in. And it's like, I haven't done anything other than he's seen me live my life in a sober realm and to rise above it. It makes me feel good understanding that. It also makes me feel good to understand that I can be a help. I'm no longer a burden. Both my parents have passed. Both of them, my dad, I was 9 years sober when my dad died, and 14 years sober when my mom died. And they went to their next lives knowing that the kid that had been the biggest concern had been able to turn it around, had been able not only to do, but to thrive in it. And that, your self-esteem feels pretty good when you know you've done well. When my dad died, that was going to be a major test of my recovery. It wasn't. It was probably the only time that my dad would have put his arm around me and called me son, because we didn't have that relationship. But he would have been damn proud of the way I behaved that day, the way I was a strength and a pillar for my family. This is foreign to me. And I think my siblings all took note and said, Jesus, Bob, he's really doing the deal. And, that kind of made me feel an understanding that I had righted the ship that needs to continue to be righted. Because if I stop growing, and we don't talk about that. Like, we talk about time and where the space is. Growth is incredibly uncomfortable. Of your spiritual growth and your, an understanding of a learning experience and the growth that can come from it. It's painful. It sometimes sucks. And you can either run from it, numb it, or you can accept it and say, let me take stock in this. Let's take a moment to enjoy the good and the bad times. Hopefully they're more good than bad, but the bad can teach you a lot too, like a big mistake or a bad situation or bad behavior can teach you something, and they're teachable moments. And for me to talk this way, it's nuts, because I couldn't see past. I was very good at living in today, because I was thinking every day is Armageddon, every day could be the last day. And today I'm taught that I have to live in this moment, and to try and not catastrophize of what hasn't happened, and dread and concern. Like, I got to roll with the punches and do it. Again, I'm a big proponent of being a gentleman through this and acting right. And there's some days when I'm not going to act right, and I'm not going to do right. And hopefully that autocorrect, I always say it's like an elastic band, and I can bang, it snaps back much quicker now. The bad behaviors are few and far between. And I can sort of say, wait, I was wrong here. And I have to fix that in order to live my life with a clear conscience. I have to be able to fix those things that aren't good. And
because then there's no weight that keeps compounding on you.
None.
And
None
I like to describe it like, let's say you were driving a 1995 Civic, and you're on the highway, and if you're not paying attention, you can end up in the ditch real quick. But
correct.
But your new learned behavior, your mindfulness practice, which essentially you're always holding yourself accountable and learning like as you go. It's like you're driving a new car now, and it has the lane assist. Right? And so when you get out of the lane a little bit, it vibrates. And so before you're in the fucking ditch,
before you go into it, it's like, hey, you have an opportunity here. You want to fix this.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's, and
given that a lot of people live, as they get older, they live in the resentment. They live in a situation where they rather live like, and we didn't really hit, all addictions are progressive. If they go unchecked, they will progress. They will continue to build. So when people tell me, well, I still hear like, oh, I only drink wine. Listen, if you drink wine, beer, hard stuff, doesn't matter. Right? It's all alcohol. It does not matter. People think that somehow you get a pass. I've been sober for 16 and a half years. Like, you can drink wine or light beer, right? Like, no, you can't drink anything. And it's okay. And I can drink around you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to turn into a pumpkin if you drink. It's fine. Like, this is my choice. And you can understand that. It's just weird to me that we go through most of our lives trying to figure out who we are, and we're putting out this image of who we think we should be. And then you find out your genuine self, trusting that this guy can be okay, and you have to be able to let him flourish. And he's not perfect, because we're all imperfect people in an imperfect world having imperfect experiences, but he's going to be okay. I know the guy I turned out to be is a lot better than the guy I was trying to be. The guy I was trying to be was a fucking douchebag, right? He was terrible.
But it was never the guy you love the guy that you turn into. Yeah. But it's never who you thought you'd be back in the day, right?
Your mind's eye will always tell you, like, it's like if you look at, look, Mish, we're going to Portugal and we've never been, but let's look at the pamphlet or go online and look at the pictures. And then over there in person, we're in the same spot, and it's not at all the same thing. It's not a bad difference. It's just not at all the same thing in firsthand present, in that type of stuff. And the same thing for me. I remember like the melodrama of early recovery, because it's starting to dawn on me at 6 months of absence. Like, who am I? I don't have a fucking clue who I am. It was like an after school special of melodrama. Oh my God, who am I going to be? Like, how am I going to be? How will I be able to, how can I never have another drink again? It was, all these scenarios are like flushing
all these
over.
Bullshit narratives that are coming in from the way I visualize it is I often think about the microbiome as our subconscious mind. And so let's say for 25 years, your ecosystem that lived within your gut learned to prosper in the toxic environment that you created for it.
Right.
And so now it wants you. That's what I think controls the brain, right? It's that's what this logo is here. It's the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. And if whatever you're feeding it is going to control your brain to want more of it. That's the whole ethos behind this time travel thing. It's like creating a new world for yourself. Believing in who you are, right, and moving forward,
believing in it and being okay with the belief that it's going to be okay.
But isn't that the hardest thing? Because it's not like
we want the answer.
You can't map it out
before I entertain it.
It's a total faith-based thing. You can't plan it. You have no idea where it's going. All you can do is say, today I'm going to do my best, and I have good faith that it's going to lead me somewhere great. And that is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
Exactly. Most people want the result before they've done an ounce of the work. They want to know what it's going to look like 6 months from now when they're not ready to put in the work.
Dude, it's fucking impossible. I didn't know I was going to start this podcast. I didn't know I was going to sell my business. I didn't know anything. But I just went 100 miles an hour with good intentions.
Yeah.
And it's led me like along this path.
And again, I mean, if we don't allow ourselves that trust that it's going to be okay, but you have to take a leap of faith. And like, I use it as like this audacity, like how dare I think I can actually do this and articulate this. And it was almost like I was shy, and I used words like scalable. That sort of made it more palatable. Okay, I'm just going to start slowly and move forward with it. And at some point it started to take a life of its own, and I had to trust that the giant strides I was taking were going to be okay. But people were going to judge it anyway. Like they thought, it's weird because you become successful. And people think, oh, I remember him when he was just this fucking loser or this or that, or maybe I'm still a fucking loser, really. But I can't control what other people think of me because that's none of my business.
Exactly. And that's their problem, right? That's their projection. That's them saying,
but human nature wants you to fail. Like, oh, can you imagine this guy thought he could do this?
I feel
that's really where I live in now. I live in this, like my successful friends that have had success tell me the same thing. That people want to take pot shots at you, man. It sucks. You know, they want to be able to say, oh, how does he really doing it? Or if there's somehow it didn't happen genuinely. And
well, I feel like there's two kinds of people in the world. There's the people who are taking the leap, having the faith in themselves and doing what they want to do. And they are just positive and encouraging to everyone around them. And the people who are stuck in their own hamster wheel, they're the ones who are going to talk the most shit. They're the ones who don't believe in themselves. They're just projecting. Like if someone talks shit about you, what they're saying is, fuck, am I unfulfilled? That's what I hear. I don't even hear the words. If it's negative, it means you're just telling me you're unfulfilled and you're disappointed in yourself. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I hear.
To me, I'm always amazed at the same people that you and I had like this serendipitous meeting. I'm driving. It's a dark part of St. Henry, and I pull up on my black Harley, and it's like, "Hey, Uncle Bob, where's this bike from? What's going on?" I was like, "Hey, it's good to see you." And I thought to myself, like, this is part of. I manifested that bike. Like I remember 15 years or 12 years ago, seeing that bike, going, "Oh man, I really want one like this." And then sure as hell this year it manifested itself in my life in the form of this crazy deal. And I got it. And, you know, I recaptured some of that. And then here I found that the people that enjoy my good fortune are the people that like the fact that I get to do these things, and other people hate it. You know, like, oh, he got himself a new car. Yeah, I earned it. I worked for it, but it doesn't really matter.
So how do you mute these people? Like, what do you do to mute these people? Because that's what I do. They don't exist to me.
It's better for me than that. I'm going to answer all of this by the life that I lead. And if I go back to address all this negativity, I'm not leading my life. So I'm going to lead my life. And I'm sorry if it upsets whoever it upsets, but I know I'm not doing anything to try and do it on purpose. I shouldn't have to apologize for success, and nor should I have to apologize for my failures. We don't do either. You know, we just look at, oh, he's super successful, or it came at a price. It came at a lot of work, a lot of those sad airports, a lot of, like, I didn't think I'd have anything in the tank. And I remember being once I'm in Chicago and my office is rerouting me. They got to go to St. Louis to do a job. And I'm like, I've just done 2 interventions. I have nothing in the tank, but I would take it and do it. And it was hard on me. And when I get home, all to do is stay in bed for 3 days and order Uber Eats and, you know, just let's get through this, get my strength back and my mental acuity back, because it's nuts. But where I find it interesting is the human nature of people on the outside looking in at your life are, we're guilty of it, I guess, to a certain, I wonder what's really going on with them. I wonder what's really, we have that sort of narrative. But you don't know until you walk a mile in someone's shoes. Like sometimes when I'm out and I see something that, like during the pandemic, like people are really on edge. And I've seen people get mad at each other while waiting in line at the IGA to go in. Like, dude, it might have been everything for this person to leave their house today, and they're scared of the germs. And I have to be cognizant of that, and that's their struggle. And I can't impose my will on that. I just need to say, okay, I'm going to give you your 6 feet, and I'm going to respect that. It's a mutual respect thing.
I think it's very important that you said that, because everyone is quick to judge or quick to point the finger at someone who's not following the protocol that they're following, regardless of what it is, without understanding that the person that you're talking to believes just as strongly as what you believe in their own thoughts. And
exactly.
What led them here is not only their entire life experience, but thousands of years of genetic memory coded into this fucking person. There is no chance.
Not many people are that. Most people are going, how fucking dare him? So now my will and my ego are making terrible decisions.
Well, yeah, because their ego is challenged rather than saying, oh, they're like this because of 10 million things, maybe 10 billion things.
10 million things that I might not know anything about.
Yeah, I know what I believe, but I know that what I believe is a product of where I came from, what I do, what I watch. So I'm able to consciously disconnect from myself and
consciously make an honest thing, say, I'm not going to engage in this. I'm going to allow this person the amount of time and space he needs and say, have on with your day. And that is you being an altruistic approach, maybe, or it's an approach that says, hey, you know what? I don't need to engage in this. There's going to be a cost if I engage in this behavior here of my own serenity, including this person. It's not worth it.
Totally.
So just let it be.
And when I'm getting into these interactions or potential interactions, the only thing I care about when I interact with anyone is that I want this to be mutually beneficial when we leave. You know, when we leave, I want each person to feel really good about this experience.
Correct.
And you can only do this if you're able to empathize and understand with the other person's perspective. Oh, are they fucking anti-mask? Okay, I could play that game. Oh, are they totally for the mask? Oh, I could play that game too. Yeah. And I could be fun in the middle and I can make everyone feel good because in my books, there is no benefit to creating havoc or chaos. And
in the days that we're living now, even though we're Canadian and like what's going on in America, and there are people that I know that are thinking that what I deem as the bad option is the right option. It's their plight. And I have to allow someone to think completely different than me. And that's the give and take. I can't use that against them. I can't turn into a guy that's going to say that all of what I do, all of the situation that I live in, I can judge them for having a thought that's different than mine. Now I'm just as guilty as they are.
Exactly.
And I need to allow that to be. Live and let live.
Doesn't it? And it's really, that's really the best way to look at it, because the way I visualize it is let's say we're empty vessels, and whatever environment we come from and currently inhabit in, we download and we become that.
Right.
But what do we all have in common? We're vessels. Who cares what's inside? Because what's inside the vessel is just the environment. So you can't judge anyone because you're judging yourself. But I would rather allow someone their thought, even if it's diametrically opposed to the way I think, and allow them to live in that, and I'll allow them to live in mine. I'm no better. I'm no worse. I can think this moral value than, I'm better than it. No, I think that's a sign that you're really not aware of yourself or the way the world works.
Yeah.
And I think that we're still in a very primitive state of humanity. And
tribalism is alive and well in our society today.
Yeah, everyone believes that their beliefs are the true beliefs, are the truth, and that whoever doesn't believe what they believe is wrong, stupid, or evil. And I know that the lady or the guy living in state X, who believes, paradigm X, if he moves to state Y for 6 months, he's fucking eating and breathing paradigm Y.
Right.
And that's just the fucking way it works.
Exactly. And that could change the way they're looking on the opposite side of the spectrum. Where it's a problem is if you do have a disagreement that it turns into a fight. And then you're wondering, what's the cost of living that way? Because it's heavy as far as I can see. It's way too heavy. So I don't want to engage in that. I just sort of hey, I'm willing to get into I don't even, it's so much on our social media feeds, and our friends post both sides of the argument. You're more on the Democratic side on my thing, but still, I haven't unfriended anyone. No one's gotten in a fight because I haven't fought with them. I don't really care. I'm in the United States today. Tomorrow the shit's going to hit the fan here. Apparently, I don't think much is going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, and this is the last podcast I ever do.
Maybe it's the last one I ever do too.
So we don't know. But where I'm at is that I've had to learn the behaviors that I'm preaching today, and I've learned it through trial and error. And like I said, when you come into this thing and build. The brand is Bob Marriott, Hired Sobriety. And then what am I doing here? Well, I'm offering a service to help people that have addiction issues and trying to shepherd them out of there in a proper manner that's tried and true. I do very well with my clients. I have a very good, my retention rate and my rate of success. If they follow what we say, you get success. If you start building your own narrative towards it, I only need this and that. It's not a menu.
Yeah.
It's all in, and you have to allow yourself to do this.
No a la carte with Hired Sobriety, or I guess sobriety in general.
It just doesn't work. There's plenty of companies that'll let you do that, and you'll fail again and again and again, and it'll leave a bad taste in your mouth, and it will lead you to think nothing works and become the incomprehensible demoralization is the word that they use after you've relapsed multiple times. You don't even know what happened and how it happened. It leaves you in a bad spot, and you don't want to get up and fight. And my world is, if you fall down, get up, and if you fail, get up. And nothing ventured, nothing gained.
So what I'm getting here, and which is honestly the I think the most important part of like sobriety or your job, because you're a sober coach, you get people sober, but the way that you live and the way that you think and your philosophy of life and your new learned behavior and empathizing with others and understanding situations, I think that the key to your sobriety is not avoiding dark places. The key to your sobriety is creating a narrative for yourself that allows you to understand others, understand yourself, not feel guilt and shame for feeling certain things, understanding or trying to figure out where they come from, and using this knowledge base that keeps updating. Your software is updating every day because you're challenging it, you're learning, you try. And like, okay, you say fail here, there. It's not really fail. It's just like the only way to learn is to go get your ass kicked, right?
Yeah.
And so
your ass handed to you.
And so you're constantly evolving. So when you got sober, did you realize that perhaps your emotional intelligence when you were 39 was that of a 14-year-old?
Did my family tell you this? Yes, because the DSM, the Bible of our psychology and human psychology, is the DSM-5 now. But addicts, apparently, the moment the addiction takes over their lives, and in my case, I would have been 13 years old. When you come out of that, your emotional intelligence is that. I was like a 13-year-old boy when I came in here, so I was emotionally challenged. Stuff that should have bothered me didn't. Stuff that should have bothered me or shouldn't have bothered me did, because the wires were all crossed. Learning that and learning how to be raw. I think the hardest thing for any man is to be vulnerable and be okay with being vulnerable. I spent my whole life not crying and not feeling. And now if I watch a sad coffee commercial of Folgers, I could get misty, I'm like, oh my God, this is touching my emotions.
I'm trying to get there. Because I was such a crybaby. I was such a crybaby until 12 years old. And my dad used to say, all right, turn on the waterworks. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that crossed the wires, but the reason I asked about your emotional intelligence is because right before we were discussing that every day now, you're in the now, you're present, you're downloading, you're absorbing, and you're upgrading your system. If that's not happening because you're drunk, or I was, partying and fucking and watching all kinds of porn and doing all kinds of ridiculous things, it's like you put your growth on hold.
Right.
And if you can turn it off, which I don't think most people can, if you don't turn it off, you're never going to evolve.
No. And I like I said, I was a grown ass man with really the emotions of a young teenager. And I had to relearn how to be okay in that. And I still never wanted you to see me vulnerable. It probably took 2 years for me to start being trusting that I could open my mouth and talk about stuff that was uncomfortable and be okay with it and not think everyone in here thinks less of me or stuff like that.
But that's your thing and now. That's your brand, because right now you're speaking very nice and this and that, but you are like in the best way ever. You are savage. You're savage.
I think it's savage. My family would tell me, like, you need to tone it down a little. And then I sort of found a happy medium where I think it was, I know I'm so much more calm than I used to be. I was so agitated all the time. And like, I have really good ADD. I talk about this all the time. My favorite color is shiny. I really, like, I just try and I can't go out of my way. I would have wanted to, here's this, let me show them how great I am. And today I'm like, I'm going to answer by the life that I lead. And hopefully they can see some goodness in it. I know I had a few people that I've done some work for that sort of came from the back, and the work I had done got back to the person that recommended me, and they're like, man, this family, they're amazed at how you work and how compassionate, how kind, and how capable. And I'm like, hallelujah, that's the job. That's what we're trying to do here. So, and as we move forward, I think that if you're going to try and get good at anything, whatever you're good at, you're going to have to be able to be raw and to be humble and to be capable of mistakes, and genuine enthusiasm should carry you far enough that you can sort of join that with being a pro. And I think that's where I found my sweet spot, was once I was good enough to know I could do this and believe in myself and be able to transmit something I've got, because I didn't have it early on, and I definitely have it now. It's a big difference.
And that's very profound, because it doesn't only apply to sobriety. It applies to absolutely everything. You have to have this. You have to have this in order to grow. You have to be able to accept that you're not going to be great at the beginning. You have to accept that you don't know all the possible outcomes. And there's infinite possible realities. There could be a fork in the road that takes you somewhere right in the first 10 minutes of what you planned on doing, that takes you on an entirely different course. And now
a tangent,
on a huge tangent, but that ends up sending you on a road that develops a different part of you that you never planned. And it leads you to an introduction that leads you somewhere else. And then boom, the world happens. But to have this ability to fucking go and say, I don't know exactly how we're going to do it. This is my general plan. I believe I can do it. I'm like this fucking podcast, man. I don't know. I don't really know. I know I like to have conversations with people.
Right.
So
well, how about this? How are you going to deal? You hear this, it's been said in life many a times, but I'm okay with the cards I'm dealt, and I'm going to play the ones I'm dealt. I'm not going to say, shit, I had 3 aces yesterday. What are they? This is shit cards. I'm going to say, I got to play these cards. Let's see where they go.
That's my brother's line. Do what you can with what you got.
100%. That's what got me here. I did the best I could with the limited abilities I had, and I built on it.
Well, that's what every creature in nature does. It has what it has, and it does what it can. The downfall, or the downside of being this intelligent creature called Homo sapiens with this developed brain, is that it's like we have so much imagination that it keeps us away from just fucking doing it.
Overanalyze so much that we're paralyzed for analyze.
Exactly. That's why sometimes I commend idiots, because idiots have this part of their brain missing where they just do shit and don't think about it. And they're real estate moguls, or they're this and they're that, and they're living the fucking dream.
Early on in my recovery, and probably in the first year, the people I gravitated towards in the meetings, my sponsor told me, like, they're shining a turd, Bob. So good that they know the topic and they're making it really good and sound good. He said, be more concerned with the guy that talks from his heart. And it was like, exit stage left. Here comes this guy. His name's Sandro. I won't use his last name. And I heard one of the most profound shares I've ever heard from a guy that's lived on and off the streets. And it was raw, and it was good, and it made people uncomfortable in their chairs. But I remember thinking, dude, he's got what I want. That was fearless, absolutely fearless, and kind, and gross, and scary, but it was all of the things that I was like, I lit up. I resonated with me, as opposed to the antiseptic, very good answer, safe, low ball.
Doesn't offend anyone. Because if it's over processed, you just don't like it. If it's straight, like the greatest artists have the ability to give you something directly from their soul. And the artists who don't do that, instantly, because you don't give a fuck and you change the channel. That's top 40 as opposed to an opus. Exactly. It's a big difference. Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, right? Yeah. Like, that Bohemian Rhapsody, they were told by how many record reps, that shit will never sell. It's overproduced. You're wrong. Shorten it by 5 minutes, because it's 7.5 minutes or whatever it is. Yeah. But you can't fuck with the heart. The people know. And I think that it's interesting as I look at brands. My ex-wife is a creative, and she used to say, you can tell where love's been put into a product, and then you can tell where mediocrity's been put into it. And you'd look at love brands. There's a book called Love Brands, and it talks about how your mother used Tide and you used Tide because she taught you to love it subconsciously, because Tide was going to be the best one, or it works like that. And you start seeing the amount of love put into something. And in this case, in my amount of effort and love put into my work, well, that transcends as I do my work. People go, wow, this is a lot deeper, meaning this is a lot more to it. And that's when I know, like, it's not a single layered cake, it's a multi-layered cake. And you're offering all of that emotional and professional and capability and hope, and everything's being served up in my job. This is what I'm going to do. They're going to come afterwards.
one of the compliments I get most of is, we wish we had called you first 3 years later, or we wish we had listened to you 3 years ago, because clearly you knew what you were doing then. And I said, you weren't ready for it. You're ready for it now. We're going to do right now. Not going to go live, my life would be different if this had happened or that happened.
That's the fucking bullshit. That is bullshit. Yeah. It's now, you're doing it now. It took that long to call you because that's what you needed to make that call, to call Uncle Bob Marrier. And I call you Uncle Bob.
And answer the phone and get 2 barrels of Bob, as my office calls it.
2 barrels of Bob.
They'll hear me, and I'll just, because I've just had enough. I'm listening to the narrative. I have to step in and say, listen, we've got a job to do here, and this is how we're going to do it. If you're interested in that, we can do that. If not, I wish you the best. And it's polite, but it's to the point, and they realize there's going to be one sheriff in town, and that sheriff's going to be me, and we're going to shepherd you through this, and we're going to get the job done. That's the whole point. We're trying to do, change people's lives and change people from hurting themselves.
That's the business you're in, man. And you went to school for 45 years and you're a fucking pro right out of the gate.
I'm a pro now. Now I find it interesting that all of my contemporaries and stuff, and I really do believe I'm fearless and unabashedly serious. I believe if there was an Olympics for this, I'd be medaling for Canada, because I damn well know how to do my job well. And that also, you're not getting the guy that's like, that's questioning any of his abilities. Me, it's like, it's locked, it's loaded, let's go. We're going to go do this. I give you that confidence. There's no backing up.
I love the energy, man, and the love, and it spreads, and every person that you've helped and all the interactions. It's
there's a ripple effect of the work.
Love is bigger than fear. And that's this logo. Again, it's like, if you subconscious mind, conscious mind, you time travel, you can touch the world, you can do all that amazing, like what you want to do. You have to believe in it. You have to start it. It's going to be very difficult at the beginning. There's not going to be anyone saying, hey, good job. There's going to be very low money. There's going to be all this,
a lot of questioning.
A lot of fucking questions. But if you keep going and you keep getting better, and you just keep helping people, shit is going to happen for you.
And it does.
Do you ever look back or think about, let's say, the first intervention you ever did and say, how that fucking amateur motherfucker, what was he doing? Or do you say, hey, you know what? Rudimentary, but effective.
Rudimentary, but effective.
Okay.
It was like the third or fourth one I did, and I got my ass handed to me, severely handed to me. And I went home, and I was married at the time, and I was like, well, who was I thinking? Who did I think I was? Like, how did I think I could do this? And again, my ex said to me, get your head out of your ass and get back in your car and go back up there, and you deliver what you know to deliver. Don't let anyone drive the narrative. You're driving the narrative. You think? Yeah. And I said, I got nothing to lose now because I'm working with Annette. Went back up there and did it. And both of these people, it was a twofer. They're both sober today. This is 10 years ago. They're both sober today. I know that. And then other people, I've had other people in my life. I have a friend, another girl that was in my life that it came afterwards, and she was instrumental in you need to protect yourself here. These people are latching their wagons to your fame and to your star. And I was like, it's not like that. She goes, no, you're the hitter, and they're all just, you bet you're the cleanup hitter, and they have come in. So to build my business, I had to bring people in, and I had to allow that to happen, and I had to trust in that process. And it was hard. I still sort of have my nose in everything that's going on, but I know damn well that we send someone out to do the job. We're doing it right. And the worst thing apparently is that if they don't do it, they know I'm getting on a plane and flying to wherever it is, and I'm going to do, let's make this kick at the can, the kick at the can. That's how
because your company is operating with love and deep care. You care about what's going on. You can't phone it in. You're not going to be satisfied with someone not doing the best that you think that they can do, and offering the client, the end user, the best of what you can offer.
Yeah. And in the last 4 years and these interventions, every single person's gone to treatment. That's crazy. I'm batting 1,000, and in this 4 years, about 160 something and zero, 160 or 170 and zero. So, and some of them take a week. Some of them we start the process, and then we leave, and then we come back in. If I can keep the family holding their bottom lines, you can get the person to change. They're hoping that, the weakest link fails, they get back in, they get a foothold, they can triangulate the rest of the family. If we stop that from happening, it's over. So Junior or whoever it is has to get the help he needs. And then once they get the help they need to ignite it, once they bite into the apple, we can see that's happening and we can be damn well ready to help it. It's an interesting job. And I feel sometimes that wow, I never sort of say, when people say to me, oh, you saved my life. And I'm like, no, you saved your own life in here. I've not saved anyone's life. And I tell them that, and they're always like, oh, you don't think so. But, I tell them, I kind of laugh. I'm like, nah, I don't think I did. I never statch it, but I can make them for 1 second realize they can do this too. And once they can realize that, because it's hard, being an addict is hard. And disappointing yourself and disappointing everyone around you sucks. And you get this deep, dark depression and nothing works. And there's a way out of this. And that I can be able to help that and get them to understand it will actually change for them. It will work. It cannot fail.
What's the first step with let's say someone's struggling with it's usually a deep, dark secret, right? Mm-hmm. And they're probably in solitude and they know that they're not proud of themselves. They know they need help. What is a way for someone whose family is not reaching out to an interventionist? What can they do what's the first step to see a little light?
I'm a firm believer, and sometimes I just have these passing conversations with people that call me about help for themselves. And the first thing I do is I want them to go see an addictions therapist as opposed to a family therapist. A line I use all the time, drives my people crazy, is you don't bring your car to a Chinese restaurant to get repaired. The same thing is when you go to sit in front of addiction therapist and you think, well, I've been to other psychologists and really they had nothing to say. The addiction guy is now going to start cracking holes in your story very quickly. So we can link, you were drinking that night, and you're smoking dope, or you're doing this, and it retarded you from either handing an assignment or showing up at work, or it starts to clearly show that your addiction is negatively impacting your life. That's first step. And then if they can sit and trust someone and start to unburden themselves with whatever trauma has happened to them, that's when the magic gets in the mix. And they realize, hey, I'm feeling a little lighter. Things are going to work out. And then you meet like-minded people that are in the recovery thing. The opposite of addiction is connection. You meet like-minded people and you're like, wow, these people are doing the same thing I'm trying to do. And they seem to be doing it. Because it's always like, I saw them and they were happy. How can that be? I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in 20 years. How can they be happy? And then that light starts to come through them. It's an amazing thing to see, and it happens all the time.
And so you're saying that first step is like whether it's reaching out a phone call to a.
I do a lot of what I call passive interventions, where I just have a conversation with someone. Hey, trust me. Do you want to give me 3 months? Let's just try 3 months and let's do some therapy with this guy, and let's see what that happens. And they can get it going then. If you go to an acute care facility, to a really good treatment center, they can really unburden you quickly, and they can clear the, shit that experiences that negatively impact us stay in us, and behaviors that we think are helping us to avoid pain and suffering. They're actually impeding us from growing as people. All that stuff can be addressed in a proper treatment center.
What do you say?
Into the recovery.
What do you say to? Because I've got a lot of kids listening, and so what do you say to a 16-year-old kid? Family doesn't have very much money. Is having some problems. Is it the same for them? Let's say they can't go to a treatment center.
Adolescence is different, but a proper therapist that they can feel safe in. And there's a guy, I can get you that person in any town. Send me an email. I'm going to help you. I help everyone. I really don't say no to anyone. If they ask me, if this kid would ask me, say, hey, I'm suffering. I get guys, a lot of my Instagram. I have a big Instagram, and I get lots of stuff like, I'm suffering with this, and what should I do? And like, what city? And I can look for some resources for them and find appropriate ones. So sometimes I'll reach out to that and get it. That's the goodness you try and spread.
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to do, because I think even having this kind of conversation is illuminating to a lot of people to see that your experiences, potentially my experiences, and our behaviors and our learning and the growth and what you're doing in life is, and I'm doing what you're doing in a different way. Like, I'm making music, but it's about spreading joy and giving hope and doing these things, right? I just do it in a more artistic way. But you're an artist nonetheless, but you're saying that a kid who's watching this can reach out to your email address if we put it in, or your absolutely. Instagram.
They can find me at Hired Sobriety and just do info at Hired Sobriety. You're getting me there, or Bob at Hired Sobriety. But amount of people I reach out to me, like I'll have 50 to 60 DMs a day on my Instagram.
Wow.
And, I try and look at them. I have someone that works in my Instagram, and often we'll sometimes pare them down to, let's see what we can do with this. That's job one. And then not everyone's going to fit in the cookie cutter of the recovery zone. And if they can't afford it, there's got to be resources at a local level that we can find and help people with. And that's the part that we're trying to help. Like when's the best time to get help? The moment they ask for it. So families like, Junior asked for help, but we couldn't get him in a place, or it's 3 weeks to get him into a treatment, but there's a quicker way of doing this. But if they can just feel like they're part of something, that makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference in their outcome. And I met someone last night. I was at dinner, and she's a single mom, and she was like saying to me, and my friend said to me, Bob does this meeting on Tuesdays and Thursday nights online, and she asked me, can I go to it? And I said, yeah, I've got people all over the place. Like I got people from Europe, and they're Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:00 Eastern time. I said, there's people from California, there's people from Miami, there's people all over the place, and that's the recovery meeting that I'm running today. And this is just that. And what's interesting is, when they're in there and they're DMing each other in the group, there's a young person, there's someone new, and they're reaching out to each other, and you see the effect that they start to realize they're not alone, and you're not a sack of shit, and you're going to be okay, and just trust the process. Because we become so caught up in our own garbage that we think we're going to be garbage for the rest of our lives.
Would you say that literally every single person in the world has some kind of recovery to do?
Yep.
Right?
And I think that people that are in recovery and realize they don't want to go, like if you practice the step work and stuff, is like, I can't go to bed angry. I need to let's take stock on what happened today. And I didn't like the way I spoke with Mish today. And I got to call him back and just send him a text and say, hey, look, I'm sorry if we had a disagreement. And people, that's not human nature.
No, but
learning how to live that way is
feels good when you do it.
Really,
feels amazing when you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unburdening yourself. It's actually, you're keeping care of your side of the street, but you might be helping the other side, because a lot of petty resentment turned into giant things they didn't need to be. And sometimes my disease of perception tells me that something that I believe was a major slight against me, the person that gave it to me had no malice or intent. He just said something, a flippant remark or something, and I turned it into this. Because my mind took it and turned it into something it certainly wasn't.
Because you have a very creative, high energy, beast mode mind, and that's what it is. And
that's the disease of perception, which we all have. We all have at different times. No one doesn't have it. So becoming aware of how to fix that and tune myself up with that, that's important.
And so you'd say that we are a constant work in progress.
We sure as hell are.
There's no pill you can take. There's no class you can take.
It's growth 101, and it comes
every day.
Rinse, wash, repeat. And it's a day in, day out thing. And you get today and you live in today and you try and not do it wrong. And we're all making mistakes. And are we able to correct them? Are we able to help ourselves? It's that easy, or it's that difficult, depending on how you look at it.
Well, I'm sure that like anything, the beginning is the hardest part. But once you get that motor running, you start to learn how to adjust in real time.
When you started doing exercise and you didn't know anything about nutrition, you didn't know anything about how to really get your workout refined to work exactly for you. You learned a lot of different techniques. Some of them you kept, some of them you threw away quickly.
Totally.
But you kept working and refining and helping and do that. How many episodes can a 55-year-old man watch of Judge Judy without thinking he's wasting his time? Fuck, I could lie on the couch all day and let the world pass me by. Or I could get involved and actively part of my emotional well-being, of my spiritual well-being, of my financial well-being. I could be an active part in that. And that doesn't mean you work 24 hours a day, or sometimes it's you got to put in the most work you can. But if you're allowed to be outside of yourself, because the self guy is the one that wants to watch Judge Judy 4 episodes a day. There's nothing good that comes from that. It's just like the guy that's going to the bar at midnight. Nothing good comes from that. Yeah. Oh, I picked up a girl. No, it ended sideways.
I'm sure it was promising. Yeah. I'm sure exactly. that brought you to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm a genuinely happy person, and I think a lot of people see me and they're like, "What's he so fucking happy about?" Well, I enjoy the life that I lead. That's for sure.
Well, you're just another example of someone who adopted the sober life, which is the mindful life, which is the life where you take responsibility for yourself. right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I say to you, instead of pointing the finger, you just turn it at you.
Yeah.
And then you start working.
Oh yeah. Where's my blame in this situation that's befalling me right now?
Yeah.
What did I have? I had an active role in this, and that active role might have been something bad happened to me, or how after something bad happened to me, how I ingested it. I think I tell people this story all the time. If you're standing at the corner and a bus drives by and it goes through a puddle and sprays you, you're going to go home and change immediately. If something unpleasant happens to your emotional self, how come you don't just go home and change immediately? How come you want to live in the dirty clothes?
So do you think, like, do you think that this is going to be a mindset and an understanding of ourselves that will be taught? That, because like I said, we're still primitive, right? We're coming from, I think the boomers or
codependency. Codependency should be taught to everyone. You could pick up that book, Codependent No More. I have an audio version of it, and I listen to it just to refresh myself, because I have unhealthy relationships with people, places, and things. And I have expectations that I set to certain people, places, and things that are not healthy. And then when you become aware of that you're doing that, that's the codependent piece, which I believe drives a lot of my addiction issues. It's like, my life would be different if, Misha liked me more, or if this or that, like all this stupidity, all this orchestra that's going in my mind. How about I keep my side of the street clean, and I try not to have unhealthy, unhealthy latched on appreciation to people, places, and things. It's not. Sometimes it's really unhealthy, but people are like, oh, I'm not a codependent. We all are. We all have a version of it, and being aware of what that is, it helps.
And so what's that book called?
Codependent No More.
Codependent No More.
Codependent.
Yeah, codependent.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, we're friends with Nick Rose, writer, Vice.
He's going to be on. He's going to be on in 3 weeks.
Okay, and he will tell you that he came into recovery. Like, oh, my Uncle Bob is this well-known sobriety coach, but he was struggling with his alcoholism and stuff. And I'll never forget, it was December 27th of 2018. And he came in and said, yeah, I can't do this. 2017, excuse me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I'm done. I have the gene. I know it. That was pretty heady stuff for a guy. Like, he was like, I know I have what you have. What do I do? And he got himself an addictions therapist. He started going to meetings, and he read Codependent No More, and he realized, man, my addiction is being driven by my codependency. And he was able to put those pieces together. I'm sure he'll tell you his version. But when I see someone able to apply, he has a degree in psychology, he has a law degree, he's a smart kid, but he applied this, and he was able to really turbocharge. You remember, he couldn't do a push-up when you met him, and now he's in crazy shape. It was all that discipline that he instilled in his life. And I watched this kid bloom into the man he is now. He turned 33 on Halloween, and watched him become the person he thought he could never be. And he's very happy doing it. Man, there's a light coming out of him. And I look at it going like that. And he said, it's pretty interesting, because Uncle Bob knows how to do this. And he followed little pieces of advice here and there, and it's a bit of tutelage, and he took it to another level.
And he's really doing what he's meant to do. He has a superpower, right?
Yes.
I feel like the people who
he's just at the precipice of all this stuff happening. He's going to explode. He's just there, and he's so ready for it.
Oh yeah.
He's
born for it. He grew up, he went to a specific kind of school with all kinds of people who knew what they wanted to be, whose parents knew what they wanted to be.
Right.
And not that his parents were like that, but when you're surrounded by that, you think that that's you too.
Right.
And and
he went all the way. He graduated law school. I'm not writing the bar. I failed it once. I'm not doing it again. And like most people, it's the parents would say, but you're here, you have to do it. And his family was the wherewithal to say, what's going to make you happy, and go do it.
Yeah, and now he's having these conversations with all kinds of unbelievable people. He's just like his fucking Uncle Bob. It's a beautiful thing. And really, what's the track record of people getting sober and life getting worse?
None.
Right? Like,
I've never seen someone turn their life over to an absent lifestyle and work and refine on being themselves and say, like, wow, I got to get that stinking thinking out of my head because it's my stinking thinking. And they've turned it into anything other than to something beautiful and something prosperous. Like, never seen it. You don't go backwards.
There's a bunch of celebrities who've done it. Like guys like Travis Barker that I've looked up to for my whole life. He got sober and like his career exploded after. And you thought he was, the drummer of Blink. Could he get any better at this?
A lot better at producing stuff.
Producing stuff. Clothing companies. He's on every song, in the world. Zac Efron got sober. There's all these people who are amazing.
They've all gone to the right way. Like Brad Pitt And Brad Pitt's story is interesting because here we have Bradley Cooper, who was not a superstar. Brad was the superstar. Brad Cooper was not the Brad you thought of. But when he suffered, he went over and said, look, I got 12 years and my life got a lot easier. And he showed him, he gave it to him. And once you ignite it, once you start, your brain synapses are working properly and you're like, wow, my reactions are a lot better to the world around me. And you realize, wow, this is impressive. And for me, I gave up smoking. I smoked cigarettes like 3 packs a day in my first year of recovery. They came out of the pack. I was a terrible smoker. And my brother-in-law said something to me like, oh, well, I'm glad you gave up the booze and the dope, but you still smoke. It's killing you. I had no argument. He was right. Vince rose, and I took my 1-year chip and I put out my cigarettes, gave my pack to a friend of mine, and I never smoked again.
Wow.
And when people tell me, oh, it's worse than heroin, listen, I shit my pants and threw up all over myself for 5 days when I gave up dope. That wasn't my experience with nicotine. And I felt like it was so psychologically binding to my head. This is going to be the greatest fight ever. I just did push-ups every time I wanted a cigarette. I swear to God, the first 3 days I was walking around like I couldn't straighten my arms out, but I didn't complain.
Jack.
And my sponsor said, nobody put a gun to your head for you to smoke. Nobody said, don't bitch and moan about this. Be a man, pick yourself up and move on. And then at 3 weeks, you realize that's the coveted time that you realize I haven't used a cigarette. And you're like, wow. And that in my first year, you're so myopically focused on getting 1 year of sobriety and getting that 1 year medallion. Well, in the second year, no one's giving that free pass to you. And now you're doing things for yourself, and giving up smoking propelled me. I felt an empowerment that I'd never felt before in my life. I was like, I was able to set a course and do what needed to be done for this.
Another thing on your checklist gives you that dopamine, gives you that fucking, all the cocktails that you need. The natural ones.
High enough, that's
it. And it's I think every human body is a drug addict. We're constantly looking for oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. There's the other one that I'm forgetting. They're the main 4, but we're always in search of this. But if we can get our high, but also get nourishment from it, right? Like if you eat sweet potato, you're gonna get the. Okay, it won't be like a donut high, but you're not going to have the crash either. But you're getting nourishment. You can watch Judge Judy, or you can go have a conversation with someone, right? Mm-hmm. And you're partaking in it. And then you're getting even now, you're not here in the room, but the fact that we're sharing and we're focused and we're challenging each other, because we want to be present. We want to say the right thing. We want to be in the moment. There's a good vibe. No way you're walking away from this, or I am feeling shittier than when we sat down. No absolutely. Fucking chance.
Actually, I have an affinity towards. I've often thought that I've admired you for in turmoil, like the shit hit the fan. You had a massive, what they call a major event emotionally happen to you, losing your father at a young age, and you took that, you and your brother, and you did not. You learned from it and you grew from it. And I think that I have nothing but respect for you for that. I think that that's fantastic. And adversity brought you here, and you brought it here on your terms. I think that a lot of people will fold, and that will be their grand mile. Oh, my dad died when I was young, and I never got over it. Your dad wanted you to survive. Your dad wanted you to thrive, and your dad wanted to be a complete human being. How come that's not the brief I took? I can make it self-centered and go, I'm a victim here. It ruined our whole lives. Nothing was ever the same again. Or we built on it. And my respect to you is because you did that.
I appreciate that. And I give it to the people who are around me, my brother and my mother. Because at first, my brother was the one who took the reins. He was 22.
Yeah.
He was 22. And I was just kind of zonked out because it was such like a dramatic shift from one day to the next that it's almost like I was reprocessing or downloading, or I don't know what it was. So I was going through the motions for the first 6 months. Like I was going to the work and I was doing the stuff.
It's a seismic shift in the way your family operates.
And I was shaking the hands and I was doing this stuff. But my brother was the one who was the machine at the beginning. Like he said, yo, dude, wake up, time to rock. And I wasn't drowning myself or anything. I was just numb, But I can't take all the credit because he was a powerhouse.
But the mourning process for you was different to your brothers, but nonetheless, you didn't turn it into, well, they just got all this money and they just blew it up. You didn't do that. You did the right thing. and that should be commended. And
I appreciate
you didn't do the thing everyone thought you'd do. You did the right thing.
Totally. Well, because it's always different on the outside than what it is on the inside.
Correct.
Right.
The grass is greener.
People think, they saw the house, they saw the cars, they saw this, and they imagine a bunch of things, but they don't know what was going on behind the scenes. They didn't know how we were raised by our parents, the discipline and having to earn things and the tough love and all those things that I think gave us the power. When my dad, went off into the fifth dimension, he had instilled in us a discipline, a work ethic, a self-respect of never being satisfied and not settling for anything that kept us going. And my mom was a machine too. And so we had really great foundation growing up.
And again, I'm just saying there was a crossroad.
Yeah.
And you and your brother both took the right, not one of you, both of you did the right thing.
Well, I'll take it and I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We have a lot. I look at it took me a long time to figure out a lot of things that you figured out 25 years before I did. It took me a while to figure out, like I have a wonderful family, and my addiction kept me so detached from all of them, and lovely parents and great like I had everything there. It was right in front of me, and I was dangerously close to losing it all because I didn't believe it was fulfilling any of my needs. And I needed to have I needed to bring some skin in the game in order to get better at being me. And in order for me to be a positive impact, I needed to say I was going to do things and do them. My word, like I said, some discipline, some accountability. And in order to do that, I had to go through all these different steps. And slowly but surely I did. It's the same thing though. People ask me, how'd you get here? Well, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of lonely, nobody's there cheering you on. There's no fanfare. It's the grind, and you go do it. And you come out the other side a better person for it.
And you came out the other side, dude. You kept going. You kept ripping.
And I'm still ripping now.
You're still ripping.
I'm still hard at it. Like my friends say, man, you work a lot. The phone doesn't stop ringing. You're always on.
But you thrive on it.
That's the job.
Right.
And I deep down, I love the burning building. Car crash happens on the side of the road. Police, I'm a first responder. I'll jump into that car. I'll pull people out. That's my human nature. I actually get high from that. I really, I'm going to get a police scanner and just run around looking for things to do. Let me save the day. But I think we all want to do it. I'm not paralyzed from it. I do it. I can execute. It's really
and you're there because you're
bad situation.
You're like a firefighter, and you're always ready, right? You're always on call, and that's how you operate in life. It's if you're distracted, or you have to worry about toxic relationships, or worrying about where to get your next high, or all these things, you're never present. You're never looking around to see if anyone needs something. You're never looking around to see if you need something. Right. Because it goes
fulfilling any of my needs by trying to be someone I'm not. And that's people. Like I know people that what do I do here? I am committed to whatever needs to be done. It's getting done now. I don't overthink it. I just go do it. And that's for some people. Like my sisters always say, I don't know how you can do this. Like they're impressed because they say you just go at it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the time. Do you want me to wait around and call it's on fire? We're happening now. I don't know why. That's something that I had inside me that I did not know I had until I started doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, from my outside perspective, looking at you, it's like you always had this awesome gift in you. You just didn't. It's just like you didn't know what the vessel was. A lot of
my old friends told me if you could ever channel the energy you had for good,
because it's like a sun that you have inside of you, and you just figured out how to use it.
But I had forgotten how to use it. I was just like, my mediocrity level was, this is good enough. I don't need to. But I had a lot of successful friends that told me, man, if you could ever channel this energy, it would work. And now they're the same people that tell me, I think Paul Massey, he sends me an email every now and then. He used to own the club in the West Island, Bourbon Street and stuff. And he's a dear friend of mine, but he's been really kind to me over the years, so saying like, I'm so impressed by this. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get up to, make up for lost time and trying to get better at being me. That's really it. And I'm not trying to do this to impress anyone else. I'm just trying to do it for me and hopefully help some people along the way.
Well, you're doing it, Bob. You're making me happy, and you make countless families happy.
Yes.
And
I will leave you with this. Today, I went to the IV lounge here and got some oxytocin in me. Thordol, I've had back issues. I've been going through, I had COVID at the end of March. In end of July, I find out I have prostate cancer. It's the easiest type you can get, so it's not a bad thing. It's still a traumatic thing to be told that. Get these surgeries, get these procedures done, and I'm still not out of the woods there. And then 3 weeks ago, I had to have a nasal canal lift, which they had to remove implants. It was terrible. And all these things have happened to me. And
look how bright and shiny you are.
Working. Huh?
And look at you, nothing is phased. When I bumped into you in the road, when you showed me your new bike, you're like, oh, by the way, I have prostate cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I checked up on you 2 weeks later and I said, hey, you alive? And then you sent me a picture of these teeth and your bloody face. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then I figured, hey,
and my sister and I have two sisters that when my mom passed, they became my moms. I have two moms. I had three, apparently now I'm down to two. But my sister's like, how do you keep doing this? What do you mean? She goes, aren't you worried? I said, no, this is an obstacle. I'm going to go over it. And I'm not going to wait around and ask myself why this is happening to me. I'm just going to fix what's in front of me. And it feels like I'm playing catch up. I've been sleeping a lot and really taking care of myself. Meanwhile, that week after I did this mouth surgery, I did 2 interventions that week. It was terrible. I was at wit's end. And then I fly down to Miami, get tested. People ask me, how can you go without quarantine? I get tested. When I leave on Friday here, I'll have an antibody test, an antigen test, and a COVID test. The antibody and the antigen test, 40 minutes after you do them here, you'll have your result. So I'll have that card with me. And then when you come into Montreal, I'll have another test done there because I'm on the list of people that have had the disease. So they give you a rapid test as well. And I'm only going to be in Montreal for a week, go to the dentist, have another procedure, and then fly back here on, I think, the 12th. I don't remember the date.
Okay. So you're a busy man, even with all this recovery, actual other kind of recovery that you're doing. Yeah. But you said you're not out of the woodwork yet. But
I think I am, but I mean, it's still, there's a process of healing and getting better. I'm still I don't have any problems peeing. That's often the situation. I got prostate problem, but it's just learning. And I have some pains that are inside me, which are just a healing process. And, of course I want to be better 100%. I did the procedure. Why am I not 100% yet? Well, because time has to heal some of this.
And so my next question is obviously right now you're dealing with it. You're doing what you got to do, but later on, or have you started looking though, is there something that I can do that maybe stressed my system? Is this causes or lifestyle? Cause you're a fucking high octane. That couldn't have helped.
I don't know. The doctors seem to think that it was there's never been any cancer scares in my immediate family. We have bad hearts. My heart apparently is good, but there's no rhyme or reason. I don't know if the doctor didn't get into that sort of stuff. And I get I do 2 blood tests a year. I'm pretty proactive on my own health to try and avoid this from happening. But again,
you said earlier, you're
here's
proactive.
The situation. You get told this is what's happening. Well, I have to go through it. I can't get mad. And
this is not the time to figure out why. It's dealing with it, and maybe later you'll try to.
Maybe later I'll figure out what the hell happened, but they can't tell anything right now.
But you look healthy as fuck. You look great. You sound great. And I didn't know that they can inject oxytocin into you. I didn't know oxytocin was I know it's a
neurotransmitter. You can go get that. Today I had that. I've been having situations with my lower back since this prostate stuff. So they give you a drip of Thordol, which takes the pain away. It would allow me to get back on the mat and start stretching some more and start feeling better. So yeah.
Wait, so is it oxytocin, the neurotransmitter, or OxyContin, the heroin thing?
No, it's not a pain med. It's oxytocin.
So it's you're getting you're getting the love drip. Is that what it is?
You feel warm and fuzzy right after they give it to you.
Fuck. Oh yeah, love that. It tastes it feels like a cuddle.
Yeah, I'm sending you the link right now, and you can order this next time you're in town. I know they have it in Montreal.
In Miami.
I know they have it in Montreal. So you're going to be all set. It's in Miami. Obviously, I do it here, but you can get it in Montreal. There's the IV wellness centers popping up all over the place.
All right.
I do the NAD therapy, which is the nitride. It's the cell, the fountain of youth, if they will, but it's really good at regenerating your cells.
Your mitochondrial health.
I've been doing that since the cancer. I've been having those things.
You're a fucking biohacker.
Yeah.
Have you been eating a little better?
Yeah, I feel wonderful. My energy levels are up. I feel good.
Good for you.
Good. Yeah.
Well,
I can do it. What the hell?
I'm happy to hear it, Bob.
All right.
And I'm very happy that you came on this podcast. You were an illuminating number 7 guest. So you're 007.
And 7, by the way, is my lucky number. I was born on the 7th of February, so I didn't know that.
Holy shit.
7's been my lucky number my whole life. And I was born on February 7th, 65.
And so, Bob, before you go, where can people find you?
HiredSobriety.com. Google my name, Bob Merrier. I love this. I tell people, Google my name.
Fuck yeah.
Pages and pages of me. And that's a good start. And like I said, my Instagram, it's interesting. I got a big Instagram, but I stopped feeding it twice a day.
Okay.
Which is, I don't think I've posted anything since Black Lives Matter.
All right, fair enough.
And it's just the way, it's such a beast that you have to feed. And I started looking at it as a popularity contest and how much content really drives my business. And it wasn't much. I get a lot of requests for stuff I can't possibly articulate.
Okay.
But that's what we try and,
that's where you live and learn. Live and learn. Live, learn, and
so
adapt.
I turned it down. It was like 500,000 followers, and now I'm at just under 400,000. And I'm like, okay, I'm good with this. I don't need it to be.
You got bigger fish to fry.
The Vice documentary on my life on the Vice's website, which is no longer running, but they ran it in a billion countries in different languages. So every time I played, I was like, what's going on? I was just like,
so
going.
is it available somewhere to watch?
Just Google my name and YouTube, and there it is.
Very cool. So if I find it,
I'll
I'll include it in the credits of this.
Not hard to find. All right.
Beautiful. Well, Bob, once again, thanks very much for hanging out.
You're welcome.
My
Thank
friend,
you for having me.
You are a time traveler.
I am now. I feel better already. Can we go back in time? I want to get a few things out of the way.
You already did. Well, all right, dude.
Thank you, Mish.
Have yourself a lovely day.
All the best.
All the best. See you soon.
See you later. Bye.